Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you everyone for joining our webinar. Today we're going to talk about how low can your RTOs and RPOs go. Those two numbers that you've heard a lot about and you hear a lot about with regards to disaster recovery, how fast can I recover? But today we're going to talk about how you can achieve the lowest possible. So how can you win that recovery time or recovery time objective? Today, I'm your speaker, Gijsbert Jansen van Doorn. I'm responsible for technical marketing at ZURDO. And today I'm going to guide you through the web that's called disaster recovery and its RTOs and RPOs. A few brief messages before we start. If you have any questions during or at the end of the webinar, please don't hesitate to ask them. Please use the question panel in GoToWebinar. I'll be going through some of the questions at the end of the webinar, and for any questions that can't be answered during the webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with the right people. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about RTOs and RPOs, but the first thing I would like to do is actually go through what are RTOs and what are RPOs. So when we talk about RTO, we really talk about the recovery time objective. So how quickly, how fast can I recover my applications and resume operations when something is happening? So what if my application crashes? What if my data center goes down? How fast can everything be up and running again? Now, RPO, the recovery point objective, doesn't really talk about the time or the return to operations, but it's really about how much data can I lose. So this is really the last point in time that your IT systems and applications can be recovered to. So if you're taking a backup every 24 hours, you could lose up to 24 hours. So if you need to recover to 12 hours ago, your RPO is 12 hours. If recovering that data takes you 24 hours, your RTO will be 24 hours. So that's just to get clear on when we talk about RTO, when we talk about RPO, what do we mean? So these are just the definitions of those. Now, why are these important? Why, for example, is RTO important? Well, the main thing why they are important is because they impact your number one asset of your company, people and their time. Whenever systems are down and it takes you hours to get it up and running, or maybe even days, you don't want your employees, you don't want your customers to spend time on solitaire behind their computer instead of doing work or ordering or using the services that you are offering to them. So people and time are really important. And whenever you are down, the longer your RTO, the longer they can't either use your services or order goods or work. So that's a really important piece. The other piece is reputation. As soon as you're down for a long amount of time, as soon as you're suffering from downtime, people will make it visible to the outside world as well. We now have channels like Twitter, Facebook, review sites, and people are really vocal about when they have issues with websites being down, with not being able to order or buy stuff. And the first thing they will do is they will send out an angry tweet, and your reputation, your brand will be damaged. And that happens really quickly. If you look at Twitter and you actually do searches, you'll see all kinds of unsatisfied customers sharing their frustration to the outside world. Now, another really important thing when thinking about RTO are dependencies, because yes, I need to get all my applications up and running really fast to make sure that I continue my business, that I can continue my operations. But there's a lot more depending on those applications being up and running. Because what's really important is also things like data forensics. Let's say I had a security breach or I had a ransomware attack. I need to do some research afterwards. I need to do data forensics, data analytics, post-event analytics or research. all my applications need to be up and running to be able to do that first. So there's more depending on that. The sooner you can get everything up and running, the sooner you can start with those post-event investigations or data forensics or whatever you need to do. But the applications need to be up and running first. So we talked about RTO right now, so recovery time objective. Why is RPO important? Well, RPO talks about your number two most important assets. It's data and information assets. The longer your RPO, the higher your RPO, the more data you will lose. And data is a very, very important asset to companies. Some companies are even built around just data. The second point looks familiar, right? It's reputation. Just as people can share their frustration on Twitter, it also has impact on your brand and your reputation when you have a breach, because data loss can actually be classified as a data breach. And there are many, many examples out there where a data breach actually impacted the value of a company. We've seen stock value go down just because they had a data breach. And with all the types of regulation out there, like GDPR, you're actually it's mandatory to report those breaches as well. You need to make them public. So it's really important that you have a low RPO, you minimize your data loss because of that, to make sure that your reputation, your brand is protected. Now, another thing is, let's say I lose 4 hours of data. How am I going to recreate that data? How am I going to recollect that data? It's not if anyone that's doing email right now also keeps a paper copy of that email on its desk just in case something happens. So let's say you lose up to 24 hours of data. How am I going to recreate that data? That's extremely, extremely difficult. Can you even switch to paper? I know of many, many companies that are not able to switch to paper anymore. And pretty sure that they don't keep track of every single change they make and every single system they use to run their business, and also do a carbon copy on paper. So recollecting that data is really extremely difficult. And the more data you lose and the more data you need to either recollect or recreate, the more downtime you have. Because people that are recreating data are not generating new business, are not working on helping your customers. Now, if we look at the cost of disruption to business, IDC did some great research and we got some average numbers. And these are pretty intense if you look at them, because on average, the cost of downtime per hour across all different industries and all different sizes of organizations is about $250,000 an hour. Imagine being down for a day, being down for 8 hours, being down for 24 hours. The impact that would have on your organization, and maybe even on the continuation of your organization, is huge. And if we look at some other data, and apologies, something went wrong with my screen. Yes. If we look at some other data, that if you have a collective of 8 hours, maybe even across different disruptions, that will cost you up to $250 million dollars per year. So that's a huge number. That's a huge amount of money. So that's why people are really striving to win that limbo, to win that RTO and RPO limbo, making sure those numbers are low, low RTO, low RPO. Minimize the data loss, minimize the downtime. And that's what these numbers all mean. And that's why you can see that many organizations are looking at building SLAs around those RPOs and RTOs, making sure that they can classify their different applications. What's the most important application to me? And how can I make sure that I can guarantee the lowest RPO and lowest RTO possible? Now, what we're going to do next is I'll actually take you through what ZURDO can do for you to minimize those RPOs and RTOs, because we really help organizations achieve the lowest RPOs and RTOs in the industry. And that's something we do using our IT Resilience Platform, because our IT Resilience Platform converges cloud mobility, disaster recovery, and backup solutions into one really simple, easy to use, and scalable platform. And that's what we call the IT Resilience Platform. So what is the Zerto difference? So what are we doing different than some of the other solutions or more traditional solutions out there? Well, the first thing we do, we are built on a core of continuous data protection. Continuous data protection uses always-on replication, uses journaling technology, and uses application consistency grouping to ensure that all your applications are being protected all the time. It's always on. We also allow you to really efficiently make use of the cloud as a DR location. So this really helps you adopt a hybrid cloud strategy. It takes you out of the business of maintaining and building and managing data centers and really gives the cloud as an option for a really, really effective and cost-effective alternative to your own data center for DR purposes. Now, to make sure that everything's up and running really fast, we have built-in orchestration and automation. And this really allows you to manage your DR, execute it really with minimal touch. So really click a button to actually do a failover. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and a little bit more detail about that in some of the next slides. Now, whenever you have a disaster, whenever you hit that bump, you want it to be easy to execute a failover. And you want it to work no matter how many virtual machines, how many workloads you are protecting. So we really offer you simplicity at scale. One user interface, one way of doing things, no matter what type of platform you're using, with built-in analytics and reporting. And that's key as well. You want to make sure that you can see how you are performing right now. Am I hitting all my SLAs? Am I achieving those RPOs of seconds? And then also prove that you were able to do it by doing non-disruptive failover testing and reporting on those failover tests. But let's go into a little bit more detail about how we actually do all these things. Now, the first thing to be able to achieve continuous data protection, to be able to achieve those RPOs of seconds, is by utilizing always-on replication. Now, what we've done, and we've done this years ago, we started doing this back in 2010 when we first released our first product, is we moved replication out of the storage layer where it's traditionally been, and we moved it into the hypervisor layer. And this allows us to be really close to that application. And there's a trend of things moving into the hypervisor. We've got storage in the hypervisor nowadays, networking. I mean, the servers have been there for years and years already. Virtualization has actually enabled that for us. And we moved that last piece of the puzzle, replication, into the hypervisor layer as well. We offer a software-only solution. We don't require specific hardware. We don't have an hardware compatibility list. It's all built in software. It's really, really easy to deploy. You can actually go to our webpage. There is I think it's about a 13, 14-minute video that takes you to deploying, sizing, and configuring our product. We didn't speed it up. It's all real time. There's zero performance impact to your production, so no production impact. That means that you can start protecting your applications right now with your existing environment, achieve RPOs of seconds, and there's no impact to the production performance. Because it's always on, it doesn't require any scheduling, planning. We don't use any snapshots or agents. It's all software-based. It's all integrated into the hypervisor, and that's what makes it really, really flexible. We're completely hardware storage agnostic because, again, it's always on. You don't have to configure anything. That means you're always protected. And this really allows us to give you the industry's lowest RPOs and RTOs possible. Now, we talked about the journal as well. So every time your environment generates a change, a virtual machine, a server generates a change. We take that change, we compress it to make sure it's really efficient in transferring it over the network, and we store it in a journal. And a journal is basically a timeline of every change as it happened or as it occurred onto a VM. And using our journal, we allow you to actually rewind those specific components. Could be a file, could be a VM, could be a group of VMs that make up an application, and recover it down to the second. So it's seconds granularity. So instead of going back to a snapshot of 4 hours ago or a backup of up to 24 hours ago, you can go back to a few seconds before ransomware hit you. And this is the example that we're actually visualizing right here. It's at around 10, ransomware hits and starts, or the disaster hits, and we allow you to recover only a few seconds before it hit. And that what hit you could be anything. Could be ransomware, could be database corruption, or could be an actual disaster, flooding of the data center, a fire, earthquake, a hurricane. Because we have a copy available somewhere else using our AlwaysOn replication, it's behind only a few seconds. We allow you to really recover it down to the second really quickly. This is what the journal actually allows you to do. Besides having a journal that allows you to do really granular recovery, the journal is limited to 30 days. That's really your short-term recovery window. But we have more than that built in. We have long-term retention built in as well. Long-term retention basically takes the data as it is in a journal and copies it to a secondary storage target. Could be in the cloud using AWS Storage Gateway, could be a low-cost NAS device you already have in your data center. And we allow you to basically recover anything across those long-term and short-term periods. So short-term from the journal, seconds granularity could go back to days, up to 30 days maximum. Long-term retention really allows you to store it for years, giving you that compliance capabilities, because that's typically what happens. Some kind of compliance or regulation tells you to store data for 11 years. Well, that's what you can use, or that's what you can use to actually achieve that. It's our long-term retention feature. Now, before I go into more details about orchestration and automation and how you can recover things really fast, I'd like to really briefly talk about enterprise applications. We all know applications are getting more and more complex. They consist of different components, and those components are not typically running on the same VM. So you have multiple VMs, but all together they make up a specific application. Or maybe have multiple applications with different vendors for different database types, but all together they make up one application chain. Now, using ZURDO and our virtual protection groups, you can protect those applications as one entity. And this allows you to not only protect them as one entity, but also recover them as one entity. So what does that mean? If I recover a virtual protection group or an application using ZURDO, every single component, every single VM inside that group will be recovered to the exact same point in time. So that means there's no difference, no time difference between any of those VMs. So if you compare that to, for example, backups, my backup starts at 11 p.m., it's done at 4 a.m. within my wonderful backup window. But the first VM I recover out of that group will be recovered to as it was, let's say 11:15, and the last one will be recovered as it was 3:55. So that's up to almost 5 hours time difference between all those different components. If I have multiple database servers with dependencies, with that sync information, that's going to be a very, very difficult process to recover that into one consistent point in time. With ZURDO, you don't have to worry about it. You enable it, it's always protected, and every single component of that application or application chain will be recovered to the exact same point in time. Now, I talked about the cloud before. ZURDO doesn't only allow you to protect and recover to the same environment. Let's say VMware. So we do only support virtual environments. So we support VMware, Hyper-V, AWS, Microsoft Azure, or one of our 400 plus cloud service providers. And we allow you to recover between those different platforms. So you could actually use the public cloud, Microsoft Azure, as a DR site and run VMware workloads on your own environments. We'll take care of the replication. We'll make sure you achieve the RPOs of seconds. We'll make sure that we'll recover all those VMs to Microsoft Azure if you need to in case of a disaster. So by using the cloud, you can actually eliminate any of the data centers you need for DR right now. You don't need to get into the business of managing, building your own data center anymore. You can start using one of our cloud service providers, any of the 400 plus we have available globally, or start using public cloud as well. And while still offering the same SLAs, RPOs of seconds and RTOs of minutes. So we really give you the ability to recover to the cloud or even from the cloud. If you're running in the cloud right now and you want to move to a different cloud, we can help you with that as well, because everything we do works cross-platform as well. Now, if we actually look at our cloud service provider network, something we're really, really proud of. Our cloud service providers, every 400 plus of them, uses ZURDO to deliver an enterprise class disaster recovery as a service offering to their end users. And both Gartner and Forrester have a Forrester Wave, a Gartner Magic Quadrant, where they look at that market, where they look at the disaster recovery as a service market. And then these are numbers of 2019. And these actually list the companies that they see as a leader within the Wave or the Magic Quadrant. And if you look at them, 90% of the Magic Quadrant, the Gartner Magic Quadrant, 90% of the cloud service providers mentioned in there, the managed service providers mentioned in there, are using ZURDO to deliver that world-class service. Forrester Wave, it's even better. 100% of the service providers mentioned in the Forrester Wave for DRAs are using ZURDO to deliver that service to their end users. So as you can see, they trust on us to deliver a world-class DR as a service platform, and they deliver that to their end users. So that's great. And definitely, if you are looking for a disaster recovery as a service partner, take a look at our website. Go to partners and look at our disaster recovery as a service providers and our network. It's a great network with a lot of great cloud service providers out there. Now, we talked a lot about replication. We talked a lot about doing it in cloud. We haven't really talked a lot about automation and orchestration yet. Automation and orchestration is key, because whenever disaster hits and you want to recover, you need to do it with as much confidence as possible, but you also need to do it as fast as possible. So ZURDO really allows you to predefine all the steps you need to take to recover an application, and just make sure that whenever you need to, you simply click a button and test it and fail over it. And you heard me say test a couple of times. We also have built-in testing available as well. So we allow you to completely test your DR without ever impacting your production, not from a protection perspective. So while you're doing your test, you're still protected, but also from a production impact. You don't have to bring anything down. You can define a different network. You can make sure that you can test whatever type of disaster you'd like to simulate with ease, with built-in reporting, and then prove it to whoever you need to prove it to, whether it's management, whether it's auditors that want to see you do it. And to be honest, you can't really have a true disaster recovery solution without ever testing it. Testing is really, really important. And that's why we've made it so easy in our platform to actually perform the testing. But this actually shows you our wonderful UI and basically gives you a quick demo in PowerPoint that, of course, it always succeeds. But it will show you how easy it is to actually perform an entire site failover. So the first thing you need to do is click that big red failover button that you see in the bottom left side. As soon as you've clicked that, you can actually select the applications or maybe even all the applications that you want to fail over to your target site. You simply select them. Now, and this is a key thing. I talked about the journal. The journal really gives you the ability to recover to how your environment was 5 seconds ago, 10 seconds ago. This is the point where I can select a different point in time. Maybe I need to fail over a single application, which is really important to me, but it had database corruption. And I discovered it now, but it actually happened about an hour ago. So I don't need to go back to the latest point in time that's already corrupted. But because of our journal technology, you can actually rewind to how it was a few seconds before corruption started. So simply select that point in time, click next, and initiate that failover. That's all you need to do. Those are the simple steps. That's just the 4 simple steps you need to take to actually initiate a failover. And it's the same whether I'm doing it for one application or for all my applications. So that's really making it simple and by using automation and orchestration. So let's take a one step deeper and look at what actually happens in the background. So let's go through a failover. So I have ZURDO as a solution up and running. It's software only, 2 components, ZVM, which is management, VRA, virtual replication appliance, which is the worker bee that does all the heavy lifting, that does all the replications. It's a scale out architecture. Now that's replicating to a DR site. The DR site's running a virtualization platform. The recovery site could also be a cloud. And what we'll do as soon as you initiate a failover is, because something happened right now, is we'll start those VMs. We'll start them in the right order because you can predefine a boot order. We'll make sure that they get the disk attached. We'll make sure that they'll get the data as it was at the point of time that you selected. We'll make sure that they're in the right network. Again, you can predefine that network. Could be different, could be the same. And we can even re-IP the virtual machines in case of a complete subnet change. So that's all automated. So the only thing you need to do is initiate that failover and we'll take all those steps automatically for you. Now, as I said, you don't really have a DR solution, don't really have a low RTO or RPO when you don't ever test it. So that's why we have a built-in failover test workflow available as well. And the failover test basically gives you the ability to test the entire failover in an isolated network. So you can predefine, build your own isolated network and put that as part of the workflow. We'll create that, or actually we'll use that network to start all the VMs. Again, using the same boot order, using the same automation rules that you've set for an actual failover. And this really gives you the ability to test if you're able to recover, but also allows you to show your RTO to whoever needs to see it, whether it's management, whether it's auditors. But this really gives you the confidence. So if you do this, we have customers doing this on a weekly basis, not exaggerating. They actually do it on a weekly basis because, again, it doesn't impact protection and it doesn't impact production whatsoever. So this really gives you that ability to test it. Now, I don't like really, really long webinars. So actually we're approaching the end of the webinar. I see a couple of people already asked questions, so I'll start answering those questions very, very soon. But before that, I quickly want to go through what is our platform. So what do we allow you to do? Because I talked a lot about disaster recovery, but there's so much more we can help you with. So Zerto's IT Resilience Platform based on a core of continuous data protection. That's the engine of how we move data. And what you can do with the data, you can use it for disaster recovery. Use the cloud as a DR site, have your own data center use it as a DR site with built-in automation and orchestration, but we can also really help you with operational recovery. Now, you might think, what is operational recovery? Operational recovery is basically someone deleted a file, I need to recover it. My application went down, or database corruption happened. I really need to get that single VM back as it was really, really fast. It's those things that you would normally go through your backup solution for, but hey, now you have a solution that allows you to go back seconds ago, really fast. So really replacing those old school backup type of solutions. We have built-in long-term retention for those compliance needs. We really allow you to deploy a hybrid or multi-cloud strategy because of our technology agnostic approach. And we help you achieve more smooth, better operational services as well. So what do I mean by operational services? So our platform gives you the ability to really fast, really quickly run an application in an isolated environment. Now, this is something that you can automate. We have an API, you can build all kinds of wonderful workflows around it, and this allows you to, for example, use those sandboxes for application testing, for patch testing. You could do offsite vulnerability scanning. There are many, many use cases that really allow you to alleviate or relieve the operational overhead. Really allow you to deliver a better service to your end users, to your organization, by using a platform that really quickly allows you to spin up those sandboxes. Again, and across all these use cases, across all these capabilities, we have the built-in orchestration and automation to make sure that it's as easy as possible to really allow you to focus on what you really want to focus on, and that's innovation in your data center. Of course, whenever you're moving data, whenever you're talking about disaster recovery, operational recovery, you need the analytics to help you. We have built-in analytics about RTOs, RPOs, SLAs, but also about resource consumption, and we can even help you plan for the future, because we have built-in resource planning capabilities that allow you to size a new data center, or what do I need in a public cloud, for example, Microsoft Azure, from a resource perspective, if I want to start use that as a DR site. So really helping you plan for the future or look at future resource needs when it comes to IT resilience. So I hope this was very useful to you. Now, we already have a lot of customers. We have over 8,000 customers globally using ZURDO to help them achieve a better resilience of their IT environment. And I'm going to talk about a few examples here. One of them is HCA Healthcare. You see the numbers right here. They reduced their RTO to about 2 hours. They really had a lot of people helping out with failover tests. They reduced that from about 23 people to 6. And they really started using ZURDO as one solution for all of their requirements. So that means they got rid of a few solutions and were able to consolidate to one single solution. Now, what I actually want to do is look at that RTO, because we know recovery speed is really important, because it impacts your number one asset, your people and their time, whether it's people working for you or people using your services. What HCA was able to do by deploying ZURDO was achieve a 48x faster RTO compared to the solution they had before. That is huge. That has an enormous impact on their ability to recover. Another example is ULTA Beauty. They switched from SRM and storage replication to ZURDO's continuous always-on block level replication. They went from a 24-hour data loss to 7 seconds, and they reduced their recovery time to 5 minutes. Now, to put that in perspective, that's a 36 time improvement on their previous recovery time. So they're now able to recover 36 times faster with only seconds of data loss. So that's, again, a huge impact to an organization simply by deploying a really easy to use but scalable software-based solution to help them improve DR and to really build a resilient environment. Now, don't believe me by my words or by my wonderful slides. We have Handson Labs available, and these give you the ability to really test. You don't need any hardware, you don't need anything to download anything. Simply go to my ZURDO or reach out to us to be able to do a demo or a Handson Lab. And the Handson Lab really give you the ability to test ZURDO out and see it for yourself. It will give you a VMware environment. It will even give you an Azure environment if you want to test replication and recovery into Azure, and really gives you that hands-on experience. And you'll see for yourself that we can achieve those RPOs of seconds, and that we can achieve those RTOs of minutes. So don't hesitate, really look at those Handson Labs. Now, if you want to even get deeper into IT resilience and what ZURDO can do for you, we have our amazing ZertoCon, May 18 till 20 in Hollywood, Florida. And I have some great news today. So one thing is, we have the Share the Love action going on right now. Basically, that means buy one pass, get one pass free. That was actually supposed to be up and running until February 14th, Valentine's Day, Share the Love. But today I can announce that we extended it to February 29th. So if you buy one pass, you get one pass for free. So that's really cool. That really gives you the ability to go with multiple members of your team and join us and learn the latest and greatest about ZURDO, but also what's coming for ZURDO. And that's a really key thing as well, because we'll keep on innovating as well. Now, another cool thing is that we are today going to pick 3 of our registrants, of our webinar registrants. So the people that are actually listening to this webinar right now that registered to listen to it, and we're going to give them a free pass to ZertoCon. So we're going to pick 3 people, 3 registrants, and they will win a free pass to ZertoCon. And I'll be presenting there. I'll be walking around there, and I'll be looking forward to actually talking to you at ZertoCon. So I'll keep this slide up while I'm going to look at some of the questions that have been asked during this webinar, because this concludes my webinar. In case you don't want to stick around for the questions, thank you very much for joining. I hope this is really useful to you, and I'm going to quickly take a browse through the questions that are being asked. So one of the questions, of course, we always see these a lot. Will the slide deck be available for download? Absolutely. The recording of this webinar will be sent to anyone who registered to attend or to watch it. So you'll be able to see that webinar offline or and at your time whenever you are able to watch it. Another question, it's a very interesting one. How about an RPO of 0? And that's a question we get a lot. So can I achieve an RPO of 0? Well, ZURDO uses always on replication that doesn't impact production. So that means we don't acknowledge any write. So that means we can achieve an RPO of seconds, but we won't be able to achieve an RPO of 0 because that will impact performance. Because somewhere down the line, I need to check if that specific IO, that specific change has been sent to the target site as well. And really, if we look at the applications that require RPO 0, because that's what we're actually looking at, we need the application to have no data loss. We're actually, it's actually being solved in the application most of the time. Because if you really want to achieve an RPO 0 on your application, you need to solve it from within the application. And when we look at the applications that really require an RPO 0, most of the time they have these capabilities built in. Now, we still help you recovering from more logical failures, like something that happened an hour ago instead of something that happened right now. So we see a lot of our customers combining that as well. Now, another question I see is with regards to our analytics piece, because I talked a little bit about our architecture, and I talked a little bit about how we use the ZVM for management, a VRA for replication. How does Zerto Analytics work? Zerto Analytics, key component of our network, because this, or a key component of our platform, because this gives you the visibility, is delivered as a software as a service component. So you don't need to set up anything, you don't need to install anything, you don't need to manage your own database with all the statistics in there. No, it's delivered as a cloud service. It's included in the license. You simply have to enable it, and you can start using it. You can start use Planner, you can start use it for historical reporting. So there's zero install, and it's included in every single license. I see another question with regards to physical servers. ZURDO supports clouds and virtual environments. So we don't have any support for physical servers. ZURDO might be that last little push to start virtualizing those physical servers, but right now we don't have any support for physical environments. It's virtual only. Another question with regards to cloud, specifically Azure. Are the same SLAs also applicable to Azure? Yes. Now, the way we operate in Azure is a little bit different. We need to integrate deeper, so that's why we have a great partnership with Microsoft. But you can still achieve the same RPOs of seconds, and the same RTOs, so RTOs of minutes. And how we do it, I won't go into too much detail, but we really use the cloud's capabilities, so Azure's capabilities, to scale. We don't have any notion of servers or anything or hypervisors in the cloud, so we need to scale the cloud way. So in Azure, we use skill sets to automatically scale up and down with worker nodes to make sure that we can scale and we can achieve those RPOs and RTOs. I think so. With answering a lot of the questions right now, I've answered already some other questions as well. So, and some of the questions were already answered during the session. In case there are any questions unanswered, we'll make sure to follow up. Thank you everyone for joining this session. Looking forward to the 3 winners and meeting them at ZertoCon. If you don't win, please make use of the Share the Love action we have going on right now, and looking forward to see you at ZertoCon. Wishing everyone a wonderful rest of their day, and again, thank you for joining this session. Looking forward to one of my next webinars. Thank you.